Thousands of people go missing in Japan each and every year. Many are found safe and well within the first few days. Others are sadly found deceased. But many more are simply never seen again. These cases are so numerous that most don't make the news. Few outside immediate family and friends ever hear of them. Arashi Mayumi would have been another such case, except for one small detail. Her family appeared on television asking for help, but it wasn't that simple act that caught people's attention. It was a note behind her father's head during the program, a note stuck to the family's bookcase that said, "Don't believe Yoko's story." Who was Yoko, and what was going on? Let's go back to the beginning. In late 1993, housewife Arashi Mayumi gave birth to her first child. Complications in the birth saw her move back in with her parents, so she could take the time to heal, and her parents could help with their newborn grandchild. A year later, on September 2nd, 1994, Mayumi told her older sister that she was going out to see an old classmate for a while, leaving her now 1-year-old daughter in the house with her. Yet, Mayumi didn't return that night. In fact, she was never seen again. Mayumi's disappearance became one of countless missing person cases in Japan. There was so little information about the case that it never made the news. People go missing all the time. The news can't report on all of them. It wasn't until 17 years later that her case got nationwide attention. One small, bizarre act took this little-known disappearance into one of the most talked-about mysteries at the time. On October 13th, 2011, Mayumi's family appeared on the television program Super J Channel, Tsuiseki Shinjutsu no Yukue, to talk about her disappearance. As Mayumi's father spoke about the details of his daughter's disappearance, eagle-eyed viewers noticed something strange on the bookshelf behind him. It was a note, which read in large letters, "Don't believe Yoko's story." The framing of Mayumi's father and the note suggested that the staff were well aware of the note's presence, yet neither the staff nor her father mentioned it. It was simply there in the background for the duration of the entire interview. Don't believe Yoko's story. Who was Yoko, and why shouldn't people believe her? Why post it on a note stuck to a bookcase and never speak of it directly? In fact, Mayumi's family never spoke of the note at all, even after it caused a sensation nationwide. What exactly did the note mean? What was going on? While the program was still on the air, viewers took to the Nichan bulletin boards to talk about the mysterious note. For those who hadn't been paying close attention to the show and had no idea who this Yoko was supposed to be, Yoko turned out to be Mayumi's older sister. The same sister who was the last person to see Mayumi alive. The same person who Mayumi's entire case would be built around. According to Yoko, who also lived with their parents at the time, Mayumi told her she was going to visit a classmate on the day she disappeared. However, Yoko then claimed she visited said classmate when Mayumi didn't return, and this classmate informed her they had no idea of any such meeting. Was Mayumi lying? If she wasn't going to see an old classmate, where did she go? Things got even stranger when, that night, a mysterious man called Mayumi's parents, asking to speak to Yoko. The very next day, Yoko presented her parents with some shocking evidence. She claimed to have found a note in her dresser written by Mayumi. In the note, Mayumi confessed to cheating on her husband. She included the phone number of the man she was cheating with at the bottom of the note. It's claimed because Yoko was the only person to ever see this supposed note. Despite being a vital piece of evidence, Yoko apparently threw it away before anyone else could see it. The man, referred to as A, spoke to Yoko on the phone numerous times following the discovery of the note. He reportedly admitted to the relationship and claimed he was with her before she disappeared. An acquaintance of Yoko's also claimed to know of the affair and the little fact that Mayumi was spending copious amounts of money on the man, despite the fact he was also married. A picture of infidelity and regret was being painted, but it all stemmed from Yoko's testimony. Things didn't add up. Why would Mayumi write down the phone number of the man she was supposedly cheating with? It doesn't make sense. But if you switch the angle and look at it from Yoko's point of view, suddenly the pieces fall into place. Mayumi wouldn't have any reason to leave a phone number, but Yoko having the number would give her a legitimate reason to converse with this man. She needed a way to be in contact with this man while living under her parents' roof. That number, written on a note that nobody else ever saw, was the perfect excuse for her knowing it. Why would she need to know it? Again, it makes perfect sense if Yoko had something to do with her sister's disappearance, and this man was a co-conspirator. Don't believe Yoko's story. At this point, things get complicated. Shortly after her conversations with A, the married man her sister was supposedly cheating with, Yoko hired a private investigator to tail him. The investigator followed him for 6 months before spotting him one night walking on a hiking trail in the mountains with 2 bottles of juice. The man was alone. Was he, perhaps, taking the extra drink to someone hidden from public view? Perhaps Mayumi? Thinking they'd finally caught the man in the act, the police were called in and searched the area, but they found nothing. It's been suggested over the years that A knew perfectly well he was being followed, and may have entered the mountain trail with 2 very visible drinks on purpose. He wanted the investigator to see him. He wanted them to search the area. He knew they would find nothing. He was playing with them because, ultimately, he had nothing to lose. It's been proposed that Yoko actually hired A to take the fall for her sister's disappearance. He was able to act so brazen because he knew he would never get caught. He didn't actually have anything to do with her disappearance. But if Yoko did, then hiring an investigator to follow the man her sister was supposedly cheating with, information that came from a note only Yoko had seen, then it would be a great way to get police off her own tail. Think about it. Mayumi disappears. Her sister Yoko is the last person to ever see her. The sister's parents receive a strange phone call from a man asking for Yoko. The very next day, Yoko finds a note that she claims was written by Mayumi, and it includes the phone number of the man she's supposedly cheating with. Nobody else ever sees the note, but now Yoko is having conversations on the phone with this man. Yoko then hires an investigator to follow him for over half a year. On the surface, it seems like the perfectly reasonable actions of a woman trying to find her missing sister. But dig just a little deeper, and the cracks start to show. Yoko was reportedly jealous of the relationship Mayumi had with their parents. Mayumi, the youngest, was doted upon, and this only increased with the birth of her daughter, their parents' first grandchild. But was that alone really enough to make her sister disappear? Don't believe Yoko's story. It's possible that their parents came to the same conclusion, but feared that something might also happen to them if they spoke of it out loud. They could hardly accuse their eldest daughter of being involved in the disappearance of their youngest. That would tear the family apart even further. But that simple note, placed visibly yet inconspicuously in the scene as the father spoke, should have been enough to make people take an interest in the case, to look further into it. And they did. People are still talking about it to this day. Matters took an even stranger turn when, 2 years later, Yoko herself went missing. And with that, both cases instantly dried up. No information was ever released to the public about Yoko's disappearance, and Mayumi was later removed from an online missing persons database as well. Was she or her remains found? What happened to Yoko after the public began to suspect her in her own sister's disappearance? The Arashi family lost both their daughters in mysterious circumstances, and on top of that, it seemed likely that one of them was involved in the disappearance of the other. We may never truly know what happened to the Arashi sisters, but there's no denying that that one small note kicked off an internet frenzy that people still talk about to this day.